Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome to eHeroes. Today's eHero is Justin Miller, and today we're going to talk about automation and how to make your business a little bit better with Infusion. Well, I guess now it's called Keep. So
Yeah, Keep or whatever. Whatever's
Keep or
similar,
whatever.
it's a software. We'll talk about the strategies behind it more than the software. How's that?
Yeah, no names, just we'll talk about the software. There you go.
And no, hey, no one's ever said hero in the intro. Since I'm on here, does that mean I'm an e-hero?
You're an eHero, yes. Uh-huh.
That's never been in my intro. I'm adding it to the bio right now.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to get you a discount at Denny's or anything, but
Do I need the registered symbol? Did you trademark that out yet? No, happy to be here.
it's on the list of things maybe I'll spend the money on this year in 2020.
Yeah, well, there's good marketing lessons there. You'll get hammered by 300 trademark attorneys as soon as you file that.
Or we'll put them in the funnel.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Let's talk about automation. I mean, you're one of the kings of automation. You help companies all over, automate their process. And how'd you get into it?
Trial by failure and fire.
Which came first, the fire or failure?
Well, they're really close to each other, right? No, I got into it. I'll have to back up briefly a little further. So I've been an entrepreneur forever. Since I was like 14 years old, I started what I call my first real company as a disc jockey. Um, I think I was pretty good at that, and I thought I was better than I was, but
Was that
um,
back when Vanilla Ice was popular?
yeah, played the heck out of that. I could still listen to that now. There's certain songs that come on the radio I have to skip just because I've heard them way too much. Um, but in that business, I was kind of meandering, and I was a learner. I would attend conferences, and when I heard people speak on marketing topics, it really resonated with me as kind of the missing piece, and kind of grasped a little of that, and then tried to get too big for my appetite and did a massive, colossal event called the Element Mobile Nightclub, where we rented out a banquet facility that would hold 1,200 people. And this was to be like a big teen dance, alcohol-free, drug-free dance for high schoolers.
Sounds boring.
And well, I was young at that point. And this, by the way, I didn't invent this. This was successful. I'd seen it work. I'm not good at inventing. I'm good at implementing. So we were running out the thing. We ran radio ads from like 3 p.m. to midnight on every station break for like 3 weeks leading up to the thing on the top 40 station. Did all kinds of stuff, bought all kinds of gear like lasers, fog, all kinds of, they were toys. And we had like metal detectors. I owned some of those for a while, all that fun stuff. But bottom line is, we opened up that door that Friday night, and we had 80 kids there, and I
Is that
lost
is
about
that good?
no. That means I lost about $10,000. As how old would I have been? 19 years old at the point. Some of that gambled on credit cards too, by the way. So I started to learn my lesson that maybe I didn't know as much as I thought. I also learned a drastic lesson about the power of radio at that point in time for what I was trying to do, because everyone was aware of the event. They just weren't showing up. That was when people actually listened to the radio. You could pretty
Mhm.
much bet that the demographic was listening. And that's really where I took a hard turn into marketing and diving into the psychology of selling, and really started to go down that wormhole. And then the area that I gravitated more and more towards was automation, systems, and processes. Things that are boring to many people, processes, just Um, I really like that. I like efficiency. I like things that are predictable. Um, and then with those in place, I like to take the gambles, because we have a little more expectation of what's going to happen at the end of it, a little less risk. Obviously, small business people, we always are taking on risk. We're always a little crazy that way. But that's what put me down the path of digging deep into marketing. I said, hey, I better learn to figure this out, or I'm going to be working for someone else, which I like being entrepreneurial. It's fun. I like to be my own boss. I like to make up my own hours. Um, yeah, there's a lot of downside that comes with it too, but the upside far outweighs it. And at this point, I'm completely unemployable, so I better keep going where I'm going.
Yeah, I've been unemployable for over 25 years, and I just don't have any desire to go work for someone else.
Someone should start an organization, like, where you get like a membership badge, unemployable and stuff. I think that'd be a good one. Self
Yeah, well,
security as administration. Yeah.
yeah, it'll be you'll get that complimentary membership when you join eHeroes.
There you go. It's the next thing.
Yeah, and discounts to everywhere.
Yeah. We'll automate it all out for you.
There you go.
Save on your insurance and
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, you got ear heroes, walkers, and geriatric stuff, and oh, I'm getting a little ahead there, but
yeah. Well, then you have to multi level it after that. And, yeah, there you go. Not
so
going there, are you?
so you went from you went from DJ to entrepreneur to automation king.
Yeah,
So how,
so in the DJ business, I started implementing what I learned, and that's really where I cut my teeth on this marketing automation stuff. I was putting in follow up systems and marketing systems in that business that, looking back, were way too sophisticated for the needs at the time in that business. But it's what I like to do, and it really set us apart. And we grew that business to be, um, we probably had the largest, close to the largest gross, by far the largest net in the area, and our price point was a multiple of our competitors, and it was the processes behind that that allowed that sale to occur.
mhm.
And if you hadn't gone through the process as a customer all the way through sale, there was no way you would have known what was behind the scenes. On as an outsider or a competitor, you would have been exposed to bits and pieces, but the fancy machine behind it that was running it all would have been a black box to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 2010. I had heard about Infusionsoft and even got, I think I tried it for 6 months. And to me, it was the most convoluted, confusing thing I ever tried. And I thought, I don't understand this cult mentality behind it, the people that have it. And why are they still sticking around? What's the deal? I just couldn't make a go of it. And I needed something simpler.
Yep.
I know that they've improved it. I know that they've made a lot of changes. I know that they even have a cheaper system now than they did, back in 2010. Um, the more I talk to you at conventions and other places, and even online, I'm starting to realize that maybe I need to try the system again.
Maybe. I mean, in general, the software gets easier and cheaper everywhere.
Hmm.
I mean, I think that's just the way it's going. My money and my clients' money is made in complexity, which is still not easy in the system.
Right.
Uh, but that was the beauty of the system too, and it's why it's one of the main products we use. Is it allows the flexibility to get sophisticated, um, and it doesn't kind of box you in. But they, along with other software, have entry level offerings that you don't need to know all the technical to get it off the ground and provide some sort of value. Now,
Hmm.
depending upon the business in front of you and your opportunity, is what's going to dictate whether or not it's worth going down the rabbit hole of complexity, and whether or not there's a return on your investment for that.
So
And that's tip.
let's
Yeah.
start off with the basic level. Why would someone want to automate, and why would they choose your system versus someone else's?
So at this point, they automate pretty much out of necessity if the business already has flow to it.
Hmm.
So if it's just getting started, get them sales in the door,
Yeah.
bang on doors the old fashioned way, get it in. But once there's traction in the business and it's running, and there's lead flow and constant lead flow, the moment you try and interject timed follow up systems, particularly if it's multimedia, so everyone thinks email, but if you're thinking email, SMS messaging, direct mail, outbound calls, and trying to manage that process without a marketing automation software package, it, it's impossible. Once you get, I don't know, say you get 10 leads a week, after week 3, you can't do it anymore.
Hmm.
And I'm well aware that people used to do this with, post-it notes and 30 up labels and stuff like that. No, no one's pulling that off anymore. The software is there for that. Why this package versus any other? That's going to be a individualized discussion.
Mhm.
Um, it completely depends, and we're 90% Infusionsoft, 90% Keep here. That means that we aren't for everyone in our service, but we know where the sweet spots are for different software packages. Did
Do
I
you?
dodge that or answer it?
Yeah, it was a good answer. I mean, I think that um, from people's perspective, they looked at the old Infusionsoft, which was aptly named Confusionsoft, only because of the complexity that it presented to a lot of these people. And there are other services out there that make it simpler, but they don't have all the bells and whistles that Infusion does.
Yeah, there's a new one by the day too. So people that have been around long enough that are familiar with Infusionsoft and its reputation. I mean,
Mhm.
it was a leader, first of its kind type of software.
Right.
So that's why it has the recognition it does. If you've been around kind of the direct marketing game for a while, as more and more come on the scenes, they're all forced to kind of specialize a little more. And Infusionsoft, I think its sweet spot is when you have at least a handful of staff members, but they have the Keep counterpart now that is actually amazing for solopreneurs, one or two or three people offices, people that are just trying to get organized. Honestly, the Keep product is for people that are coming off post-it notes all over the place and Excel spreadsheets.
Hmm.
You can do that. You don't need someone like me. You'll get to value immediately. It's intuitive.
Hmm.
Infusionsoft product, I'm struggling to call it intuitive unless you think like me. Like,
Yeah.
and it's gotten easier, but back when you looked at it or when I bought it, which was probably 12 years ago now at this point, you really had to think in your head in terms of processes and how things connect and flow,
Hmm.
and it was difficult.
Yeah.
Um, Even now, if you hire a company like mine to build it out and teach you how to run it, we don't teach you how to build in the system and tinker. We
Hmm.
teach you how to operate your business within it and the things you need to know, and that's a completely different approach.
Right. Yeah, and I think you simplify it. Most businesses want to be able to do what they do and not have to tinker with websites and SEO and automation and all this other stuff. And because now they've become a jack of all trades,
Yeah.
a wearer of all hats, and you can't do that. You got to
Well, at a
concentrate
certain
on what
point,
you
it's
do.
not worth your time, right?
No, and
So, we are specifically lead conversion. We're lead conversion experts, which means we don't do lead generation. So, marketing agencies in general, most people automatically think, okay, you're going to run ads, you're going to get us leads, you're going to now do Facebook ads, is what people would think. Historically, it would have been radio, TV, print. We're still a marketing agency. We don't do any of that. SEO, we don't do that.
yeah,
Content creation, we only do within the scope of what we're doing. So we are even like niched into something that probably didn't exist before,
right,
because you don't want me running your Facebook ads. Do I know enough to evaluate whether or not they're effective?
yeah,
Yes. Do I want to go into Business Manager and set it all up for you? No.
mm,
There
yeah.
are plenty of people that are amazing at that and study it every day.
And I know enough about Facebook ads and Google ads that I'm dangerous, but that's why I have, my crew that does that. That's all they do. I concentrate, I've kind of compartmentized, everything that we do here. So each individual is we rely on their strengths. And so Jason does this and Paul does this and I do this and Kim does that. And, it just, to me, it makes it so much easier, only to the point where if they break their leg and can't work, then I'm kind of, I need a backup. But
Oh, same with copywriting here. So our projects all usually involve a fair amount of copywriting, and we send that out to our writers. Do I know enough to evaluate whether or not the copy is good? Yes.
Mhm.
Do I write it from scratch? No.
Yeah,
If I look and review your materials, which we do as kind of a starting point, can I tell if you wrote them yourself or a professional copywriter did? Yes, it's pretty easy to spot, you know? Um, but for some businesses, would that suffice to continue doing it that way? Yeah, it kind of depends where you're at, where you're going.
yeah. Now you had mentioned you had touched on texting and videos and all this other stuff. Now, your system does that, because I know some other systems, won't integrate with texting. They won't integrate with chats. They won't integrate with any of this other stuff. All you're getting is plain vanilla, you know, emails.
Yeah, so that's I'm glad you mentioned it, 'cause probably one of the reasons we continue to support Infusionsoft versus some of the competitors is because we rarely hit a roadblock. We know where there are firm limits, but it seems everyone has been there before and already plowed a path or an integration to a third party software. So I'm not saying Infusionsoft natively does direct mail. There are some old features that kind of do. But I am saying I can control it and integrate with something else that does it.
Mhm.
And it's almost always the case that's true. So we can have best in class products all connected together, working in harmony in there and all automated. And that's really important, is that whatever you choose, we don't want data and contact info in silos, is what we call them. We want it all integrated all in one spot so you can make sense of things and it flows.
Yeah, and one of the things that I try to teach entrepreneurs is get a system that flows evenly. Don't try to Frankenstein your whole system, because if one element breaks, then your whole funnel, everything is destroyed. And you waste 20, 30 hours to try to fix it. Get one thing that works.
Yeah, it's like one of our trade show ads. Stop putting band-aids on your marketing, you know,
It's
or
just,
your marketing automation.
I,
Now, a lot of people say that when they mean, "Oh, I have to get a third-party product to do that part." That's actually not what I'm talking about. I'm okay with that.
yeah,
I'm okay with multiple products when they serve a purpose. But if we're trying to hack around just to save money, then we're probably doing it the wrong way, or
yeah,
there's not enough value in the business proposition in the first place.
I met a client that they spent, X amount on this, X amount on this, X amount on this. And I said, great. And then they cobbled them all together and they use apps and this and that. And I'm like, it's too complicated. How much money did you save? She says, well, I don't know how much money I saved, but I'm spending like 300 hours a month to do all this and bring it together. I said, the other system that you could have gotten is only like 200 hours a month. And they just went, what?
Yeah. Welcome to my world. We find the most efficient way to build that. And not uncommon that we're zapping here and there, but it's really having your bearings enough before you start building to know what's going to be the most efficient.
So what's the most popular? What do people use the system for? I mean, I know it's basically just collecting emails, sending communication back, but they got to do it. They got to use it for more than just that.
Yeah. So what most people do it for, and what you should, might be questions. Yeah, most people pop in and see it as an email system. You're correct. So come and collect emails, send emails out. That's a core foundation,
Hmm.
and it's important it's there. But if that's all you're doing, your business is in trouble. If it's working right now, great. At some point, it's not going to work anymore. Um, Particularly with high value sales. Just sending out timed emails is
Yeah,
you're like 10 years behind the game still.
I noticed though, and I hear this a lot, is that Gmail is throwing everybody's stuff to the spam folders. How do you control that?
So blunt answer is you can't. So what Gmail and all the other ISPs are doing right now is trying to establish whether or not a particular email is of value to you as the recipient. So if I send you an email and you don't engage with it, meaning you haven't clicked on anything, you haven't opened anything, you haven't looked at it, Gmail is going to realize that, hey, Rob doesn't like Justin's email, and it's going to start putting me in spam.
Hmm.
Now, if I'm sending the same email over to Jenny and she's reading it and clicking it, she's still going to hit inbox. So it's important to know that we're at a time of individualized. Everything's so complex that it's individualized. And the key is we can't just keep blasting things out. People have to engage, interact. If they're not interacting or engaging or reading or opening, there's no sense sending it, and you probably shouldn't, because it's going to hurt delivering to the rest of people. That's actually an entire specialty all its own. And there are experts just in that, getting email delivered and able to be opened and seen.
So if they're not opening the email, what can we do to get them to come back and open the email? Do we send them a text? Do we call them? Do we harass them? Do we send someone to their front door? And
We could, or we could say, doesn't matter anyway. Can we hit them with direct mail? Can we hit them with SMS?
Hmm.
I'm not asking them to open the email off that. Maybe email is not their thing.
Right.
Um, the other thing is setting expectations properly out the gate. This is probably the most important thing, just from an email marketing standpoint.
Hmm.
What am I going to get? How often am I going to get emailed? And what type of content it is. Setting that up front and not changing that mid course pretty much wins the game. And then removing them when they don't engage. But a lot of entrepreneurs, they start collecting emails, start emailing. They get a new idea or a new business. Oh, let's email all the old people about that didn't know anything or request anything about it. And this is where we get into problems.
Yeah.
So if we're consistent and we're reliable, that works pretty well. It's when we go haphazard. So we have a client we're working with right now. She's a doc, and she sends weekly emails to almost her entire list,
Mhm.
and they're full of current things going on, some humor, some teaching, etc. They're actually entertaining to read. She hadn't sent one in about 5 weeks. Then she sent another one to the list. Well, all the stats are off, and deliverability is getting tough. Because she broke that pattern. So
Mhm.
now we got to get it back and kind of fill in the gaps to make sure that doesn't happen again, because it hurts. So be consistent. That's why I like systems again.
Well, I send out a scheduled email every single day, and to some it would really, the first, I think the first month I sent it out, I had the biggest, uh, you know, decline rate. People were saying, they were just bailing out of the email. They didn't want to have my email every single day. But these were people that hadn't bought from me for a long time anyway. It was good to flush them out of the system. But what I've discovered is when you email somebody every single day, you either trigger them to get off your list, or they stick around to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And I've over the last year of emailing people every single day, um, I only lose probably maybe one a week now, versus but I'm getting more and more people joining. So if I'm only losing 50 emails a year, then it's great.
Yeah,
People,
there's a fair amount of people doing daily email, and it can work. And the key is, yeah, you get the unsubscribes up front that don't want daily email, and then everyone else knows they're getting daily email after that.
yeah,
That's
but
fine.
Gmail has already figured that I'm spam, so I got to go in my junk folder to read my own email. So it's
Yeah, we'll put you in touch with the deliverability expert on
yeah.
that.
So there's and I've discovered that certain headlines work better than others. When you do it every single day, you start to understand the pattern of when people are reading it, what time they're opening their emails, and why they're clicking on stuff, and that really helps. But here's the problem: is once I break that and I stop doing every day and I go back to once a week, people are going to say, "What's going on?
Yep.
Is it Rob still doing this, or somebody else? Or did he change services?" And people might leave again.
And you and I are thinking consciously, but a lot of the recipients, subconsciously just know something's up. Like the brand feels off.
Hmm.
Something changed. Same with being consistent in the direct mail follow up. Is if I'm mailing you regularly, we'll take like a newsletter example for existing clients, just some physical newsletter in the mail, which is an important piece. If that stops coming all of a sudden, there's something in my head going, why? You know, or if it keeps coming and it consistently comes the same week every month, you know, subconsciously I'm thinking you're a reliable, trustworthy business.
Hmm.
Not only that, but you're putting money behind this and others aren't. So, I think that the business isn't going anywhere. It feels solid.
Yeah.
Email doesn't have that same thing quite as bluntly, but it is there.
Yeah, and I've noticed that with email, it's just easier just to go through your phone, scroll through, and just delete, 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 and you don't even have to read it.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially this time of year, we're recording this in December, and it's just the inbound email is crazy.
Right? And
It,
and I think I've gotten 1,000 emails over the last 2 or 3 days, and it's just I got to just delete them all.
yeah,
And sorry to say, but you got to get there's a different approach to get my attention, or anybody's attention. And I do check. If you send me a text, I check it.
Yep.
If you send me a Facebook message, I check it. But do I check my emails all the time? No.
And
So
there's new rules and games coming into play with text too. So you're just staying a little bit ahead of the technology too, and realizing that everything's fluid and changing, and new regulations and new rules.
so how do you
Uh,
keep and then I know this answer. But how does the regular person out there know if they're in compliance? I mean, for me, we do a lot of research here, but a lot of people don't have the time or luxury to know if they're in compliant, if they're sending stuff, if it's just violating Canada's spam laws or California spam laws or GDPR, whatever that European crap. Um, what
so
are
here's the first thing I'll say, but might not be what you're expecting as the answers. First thing I look at is there even a target on your back? Doesn't matter. I'm not saying we're blatantly violating the law, but if you're a one man shop and you have a 400 person customer base and they're local, I don't care.
yeah.
Use some best practices, but don't concern yourself with this. If you have a target on your back and money and assets and someone trying to, sue you, it's different. Then we got to pay more attention. You also, at that point, probably they'll have the cash flow to hire people to help you. It's the middle ground that's where you're kind of in turmoil and it's iffy. A lot of the basic compliance things are just automated. You have no choice about it. Like if
Mhm.
you're using a software platform, it's gonna have an email compliance line in it. It's gonna have opt out. You don't have to do any of that. You can choose whether or not to use the GDPR settings. You might want to get some advice on that. But um, the basic core legal stuff usually is covered for you at your own peril. If you have a target on your back, just hire it out to begin with. If you're small, run your business, make money.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
And people, please use an automated system. Do not put me in a BCC line with 3,000 other emails and direct blast me. That stuff is like 1985 crap. So
Well,
don't.
that's how they end up with the emails in the spam folders too. So that'll get you there pretty quick. So if I scroll through my spam folder now, which occasionally I have to because Gmail doesn't know all, it does put legitimate email in spam folders. Um, I'll see all the blatant just email sales stuff that was clearly automated, but it was sent one off,
Mhm.
to look like it was personal, and there's no opt out links. That stuff goes straight to spam. It's very rare one of those hits the inbox anyway. And yeah, as a recipient of email, if you added me to a distribution list and I can't click unsubscribe, I'm pretty irritated
Mhm.
because now I have to actually reply back to you and let you know that I don't want to hear from you.
Yeah. Uh,
Which, just because I don't want to hear from you now doesn't mean I don't want to resubscribe or engage or hire you in the future. So if someone wants off your email list, it should be easy to get off it.
yeah. I enjoy looking at some of the comments that people put when they try to unsubscribe. And I had one person that opened every single email for probably the last 3 years in a row, and they finally said, "I never subscribed to this." And I go in the system, and I'm like, "Yes, you did. I can
Yeah,
see
you can
it."
tell them when and where and how.
But it's like they're just going to click whatever buttons because they've had it, and it could probably have nothing to do with you or your email. It was something that affected them that day, and they just took it out on you.
Well, my favorite's when people give you the bad advice of don't ever click unsubscribe. It lets people know your real email address and things like that. That's just complete BS. If there's an unsubscribe link, it's unsubscribing you. Do it.
Yeah, and the ones that you press unsubscribe, but then you gotta go through their whole hoop jumping and fill in this, and next thing you know, you're resubscribed to some other list, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Or people that are using multiple systems and one doesn't know you unsubscribe from the other. That's where you start to get into problems.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you want some amusement on a similar topic, look up the TED Talk on this is what happens when you reply to spam.
yeah.
This is what happened when you reply to spam email. That's a funny one.
The so you know, how do people who want to use your service? How do they get a hold of you?
Easy enough. I still answer all my own email. So you can email me, Justin at profit911.biz, or pop on our website, profit911.biz. take a look a little at what we do. It's not an amazing website. It's really just there as a brochure. No one randomly finds their way to my website. Okay, so if you're there to read a little bit, and then there's a button for you to schedule with me, and that's there's about all you'll find that's important up there.
So if
And
you
spend
want
some
a
time with me.
not so great website, but filled with a lot of great information, go to Just
Yeah,
Miller.
Profit911.biz. Good is good enough. So here's another interesting thing is you always, it's like the cobbler has no shoes.
Yeah.
What I do for my clients is much better than what I do for myself. And I think that's true of everyone in the industry.
It can be, and I used to be that way too, and it got to the point where I was so in tune with what my clients were doing and helping them out, and then I'd have a client leave or quit or fire me, and I'm like, well, shit. Now what do I do? I don't have my marketing in place. I don't have anything, and it would take me months to find that next client. And now I have blogs scheduled for the next year. I have stuff working for me constantly, and so we even write books. So it's
Yeah, I don't want you to SEO your way to my website because you have an Infusionsoft crisis. Yeah,
yeah.
I'll look at it and help you, but we're the proactive planning people that help you build the machine. We'll bail you out occasionally. That's really not what we do. So we
Yeah.
want people that are, kind of successful and looking for either assistance or efficiency in their marketing.
I think you would make a great companion to my last book, Rob versus the Morons. We could make it Justin's story and put it in there and yeah, you can call me if you want. I will help you maybe.
Yeah, crisis relief, not our thing.
No, but I
We'll
hear
tell you why you got in trouble, and a
no,
lot of these things. Once it's too late, it's too late, and the process you're going to have to go through to repair everything is nuts compared to what it would have been to reach out to start with.
yeah,
And we've gone through that with several. Sometimes through no fault of their own, sometimes just through ignorance of
yeah,
the industry, which is fine. Business owners are busy running their businesses.
yeah. But I've
Um,
heard a lot of people speak very highly of you. I know that you run a top notch business, and I know that you're going to stick around and be the hero that they need you to be when they come into problems with their automation.
yeah, you'll get honesty.
So
Honesty without judgment. That's what you'll
that's
get.
right. Well, for me, it would be all judgment. So
Well, you need content for that next book.
that's right. So,
Well,
guys, listeners out there, please, visit Justin and if you feel the need that you want to expand out of your present automation and learn more about what Justin can do to help you, please visit him and say the website one more time. And
Profit911.biz, B-I-Z. If you hit .com, we have that one too, but we actually live on .biz.
there you go. So I'll see you guys on the next podcast, and please, visit Justin. And this is why he's an e-hero. So I'll chat with you guys later.
Thanks,
Adios.
Rob.